Hey, friends, welcome to day 29 of walking through the Gospel of Mark together. And as I mentioned before, we're now halfway through our walk all the way with Jesus till Easter. And so today we're in chapter 9, verses 1 through 13. And this is probably one of the most significant passages, one of the most significant stories in the New Testament. I can't think of hardly anything that's more important in the New Testament speaking to who Jesus is than this. And I mean, obviously, there's the cross, the resurrection. This is like top three or four. Um, it says in verse 2, 6 days later, Jesus took Peter, James, and John and then led them up to a high mountain to be alone. As the men watched, Jesus' appearance was transformed, and his clothes became dazzling white, far whiter than any earthly bleach could ever make them. Then Elijah and Moses appeared and began talking with Jesus. And so, as I mentioned, in the past couple of sections of scripture, Jesus is drawing a line in the sand and he's asking his disciples to really take a big step of faith, to believe in him, to follow him, to be willing to lay down their lives for him. And he doesn't use any uncertain terminology in that. Like he said, you've got to, in order to gain your life, you're going to have to lose it. And then he uses language like, you're going to have to take up your cross. Now, remember, this is before we know Jesus is going to die on a cross. And so he's just using it as a picture of dying to self. He says, you're going to have to every day take up your cross and follow me. And then after he's asked them to make that big step, we assume that since they're still with him, they've chosen, yes, we're going to follow Jesus. He said, okay, now I've shown you my resume, all my miracles, all my words, all this other stuff. Now I'm going to show you my references. And he gets up on this mount and he is glorified. He is dazzling white is his outfit. And you can imagine this experience is like for them. And then they see Elijah testifying from the prophets and Moses testifying for the law, saying not I'm putting away the Old Testament, not I'm ignoring the Old Testament, but rather they testify to my authority. And they're here in person to let you know that, yes, they approve of me. What they were doing, everything that the Old Testament pointed to is coming true now. And I am the one that they were prophesying about. And so he has Moses, he has Elijah. And then if that wasn't enough, it says, then a cloud overshadowed them, and a voice from the cloud said, "This is my dearly loved son. Listen to him." And so this passage is amazing, and it's meant, I think, to blow our minds and just to really speak to this is who Jesus is, right? He is not only the one who's prophesied, he's not only one that the laws look forward to and the prophets look forward to, but God, the Father himself, is saying, this is my son, you need to listen to him. And so for the disciples, they were about to come into a season where they were having to lay down their lives. They needed to know beyond a shadow of a doubt, no matter what, that Jesus was who he said he was. If I'm going to risk everything, Jesus has got to be who I think he is. And that's what Jesus is letting them know right now. Testified to by the prophets, by the law, and God the Father himself. And when we take that step of faith, when we decide, I'm in Jesus 100%, I know that for me, I know that for so many people I know, and I would be praying that for you, Jesus would speak to your heart. He would bear testimony in 1,000 different ways that Jesus is who he says he is, and he's there with you just as much as he was there with them on the Mount of Transfiguration 2,000 years ago. God bless. Have a great day.